Good morning, my YouTube viewers. It's Crystal here. This is lesson 6 of my free course, Intermediate Excel course. And basically what we're going to be covering in this course is, in this lesson, is tables, sorting, filtering, and structured references. So we're going to be talking about tables. And basically, I personally don't use tables in the work that I'm doing at the moment. And the reason why is because every week there's this report that comes out. There's an appraisal report and a MASS report, and MASS stands for mandatory and statutory training. And so basically, mandatory training covers one section and statutory training covers another section. But every week we get a new spreadsheet. And so I have to take that spreadsheet and filter out the information for the department that I'm working on. So I personally don't use tables. Now, a table is good if you've got information and every week or every few days or every month you get new information that must be added to it. So you keep the old information and you add new information to this table. So that's what a table is good for. And then a table is good because it allows you to automatically filter and sort information. So that's why a lot of people prefer to use a table than a regular spreadsheet. So although I personally don't use tables, I've made this lesson on tables to give you a little bit of insight into tables. And so you should have taken my basic Excel course, and you should have taken lessons 1 to 5 in this course. So you should already know how to get into Excel, how to create a file, open a file, edit a file, close a file, and move a file around. So we're just going to go directly into Excel for this lesson. So we're in Excel, and if you watched lesson 5, which I hope you did, on lesson 5 we were talking about date and time functions. And so basically for this course I made a project timeline for the course because I'm a one-man band, and so in the course I made a project timeline, which hopefully you watched the lesson and maybe you've got a project timeline that you would like to make. So I've made a project timeline for this course, and since I'm the one-man band, I'm the only owner for the course. So what we're going to do is we're going to say today's date is 17, because as soon as I finish this video and upload it, this lesson will be complete. So we're going to say 17 July 26. That's today's date. So you can see that it's taken me 2 days to do this lesson, and that is because I had to do a lot of preparation. Come over here and we say completed. So we've completed that because as soon as this video is finished and uploaded onto YouTube, it will be completed. So you'll know that it was a little bit more complex lesson for me to make because I personally don't use tables in my day job, but I made a table for this course. So rather than 1 day, it took 2 days. So I'm going to start working on this today or tomorrow. So I'm going to say 17 July 26 is today. That's when I'm starting on it. I'm going to say in progress. I think that's what we said, isn't it? I think that's what we said. So it's in progress. So as soon as I finish lesson 6, I'm going to start on lesson 7. So here we are, because what I decided is, since I had to do this timeline, I had to make a timeline. I had to make a project timeline for lesson 5. I decided that I was going to go ahead and fill out the project timeline every time I make a lesson. So if you want to know how to do a project timeline, I would highly recommend that you go to lesson 5 of this playlist, and you will learn how to create a project timeline. And maybe you can do a project timeline for yourself. If you're a student, you can do a project timeline for your academic studies. If you're working, you can do a project timeline for your work. And in my work, I generally do pretty much the same thing every month. Every month I do the same thing. And so every day when I leave work, I write down on a sheet of paper what I need to do the following day, because I'm a one-man band in my work as well. But if you do have a project that you need to work on and you have to coordinate with other people, then you can make a project timeline. And so this is a really simple project timeline, and you can make them a lot more complex than this. But since I'm a one-man band, and since this is a course, I decided to make it simple. So we go to lesson 6, and in lesson 6 we're going to discuss tables. And so I personally don't use tables in my day job for the reasons that I stated at the beginning of this video, but we're going to talk about the advantages of tables. So a table gives you an automatic expansion and formula progression. When you add new rows of data to the bottom of an Excel table, the table automatically expands to include the new data. So that's a benefit of a table. And so a table is good if you've got this data, and every few days or every week or every month you're giving more data, and that data has to be added to your existing data, then that's when a table is going to come in handy, because you don't have to recreate the formulas. The formulas will automatically take account of the new information in the table that you have added to. So structured references for clearer formulas. Instead of cryptic cell references like sum A2 to A100, Excel tables allows you to use meaningful descriptive names in your formulas, e.g. equals sum bracket sales amount, or sum or sales minus cost. So what that reminds me of a little bit, it reminds me of Python programming. And so if you've ever studied Python programming, you can do Python programming two ways. You can either do Python programming where you calculate the numeric rows and cells, or you can do calculate numeric rows and columns, or you can use the column names. And so I've done it both ways. I've done it where I calculated the numeric rows and columns, and I've also done it where I've calculated the names of the columns. So that, in a way, that's a little bit more like programming. And so that way, instead of having to know what column and row, or column and cell, or column and row that you're working on, like say B2 or C3 or something like that, you only have to know the name of the column. So in some instances, that's a good idea. And so that might be why people want to use a table. And so number 3, you have built-in filtering, sorting, and banding. So Excel tables automatically come with filter arrows in the header row, making sorting and filtering quick and intuitive. So, I mean, once you get used to working in Excel, you won't have any problems filtering and sorting a regular spreadsheet. But that's a nice thing about a table. I'd say that the best thing about the table is if it's the same table that you're going to be using indefinitely and you just need to add information to that table or subtract information from that table, then a table might be good for you. But me personally, I get a new spreadsheet every week and I have to do all the formulas and things like that every week to create that spreadsheet. And so what that does is that means that I have to redo the formulas every single week. And if I had a table, I wouldn't have to do that. Then I could just add the rows to the and insert rows to the table and insert that information into the table, and it would automatically be done. But since I get the same spreadsheet every single week, it's not really economical for me to do that. So tables also have automatic total rows. This row can quickly perform various aggregate calculations of sum, average, count, max, min, etc. for each column using a drop-down menu. So yes, whenever you create your table, you can set it up to have a total row. You have simplified data visualization. That's charts and pivot tables when you create a chart or pivot table from an Excel table. The source range automatically updates as you add or remove data from the table. So that's going to be when you add data or remove data from the table. So that's what a table is good for. So we're going to show you how to create a table. I've got some little tips here, how to create a table. So we'll come over here to lesson 6, raw data. This is the raw data. What I would recommend is when you start practicing making a table, that the data that you have, you keep it in a raw format. So you keep the raw data, and then so you're going to keep the raw data because something might happen to your table, especially in the beginning. In the beginning, you want to keep the raw data just in case you make a mistake while you're practicing. So we're going to create a table. So you come over here to insert and you go table, and it says here, it says my table has headers. So we've got headers. So you click on that. So you say $A, $1 to $O, $18. So that's our table. So you click OK. And then what's that done is that has actually created a table for you. But I'm going to undo that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it. Going to create a copy. So we're going to use raw data 2. We're going to use raw data 2 because, you know, I don't want anything to happen to my raw data. So we're going to do raw data 2. So this is how you create your table. You do insert table, and it's $A to $O, $1 to $O to $18, and you're going to say my table has headers, and then so it's going to convert it to a table. So now you've got a table, and then so that was the first task that we had to do. And then so another one is you're going to add a row to a table. You're going to add a row to a table. So how you add a row to a table is you click over here on your anywhere on your table and you have table design. So this is going to be, we're going to call this, lesson 6 table. So that's what we're going to call it, lesson 6 table. And then, so you click anywhere on your table and you're going to find table design. So I think over here it says, let's come over here where it says add a row to a table. Select any cell in the table. Design tab will appear. Click onto total row. So I think that what we're going to do now is we're going to do the total row. So come over here to table design, and then we click over here to total row. So that gives you a total in the bottom. And then you click onto the arrow, and you can make none, average, count numbers, max, min, standard deviation, variance, and more functions. Let's click on more functions, and it gives you lots of other functions, lots of statistical functions. So you can put an if in there, or an offset, chi-square test, F distribution, an exponential distribution, standard deviation, and a normal distribution. But let's just keep it simple in this one. Let's just say count. So you've got 17. So we've added a total column. And then it said add a row at the bottom. And you, in the table design tab, click resize table. So in table design, click anywhere on the table, go to table design, and we're going to say resize table. It's over on the far left. So we click resize table. So now we're going to say our table, we're going to add one row to it. So we're going to say 20. We're going to add one row to it. So instead of $$, $$, 19, we're going to say $O, 20, and then you click OK. And then you go down, and we've got an extra row for which you can put new data in it. So now we've got an extra row, and you can put new data in it. So what I did in order to prepare for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to this new row I've created, and I'm just going to copy and paste it rather than put all of that information in it all over again. We're just going to copy and paste what I had previously created to prepare for this lesson. So we type Control V. So you notice we've got a bunch of employees, a manager, and an owner. So I've added an owner. So you can see now, instead of 17, we have 18. And then now we're going to say delete row and column. So you're going to select the row and column, and you're going to click delete. So let's just say we want to delete employee 12. So you select that row, and you press delete. You're going to say table rows, and now you don't have an employee 12. But I'm going to go back because I want to keep employee 12. And let's say you want to delete the appraisal date. So you select that column, you press delete columns, and now you don't have an appraisal date, but I'm going to undo that because I want to keep that. And then it says, so we've done all that. So now we've got some exercises that you can do on this table that we have created. So turn raw data into a table. We've done that on the Insert tab. You just click onto the table icon, and you're going to get a new table. You're going to say, here's a task. Filter out the manager. So what we're going to do here is And then we're going to filter it. So we're going to just click on to manager. And then so now you only have the manager. Or let's say if you only want the owner. So you click on the owner, so you get the owner. And then let's say that you want employee 9. Or you can just filter out the employees. So, and then that one, we're going to say employee 11, employee 1, employee 9. But you can filter out all of the employees as well. But since I want to keep all that information, I'm going to go back to select all. And now we've got everything. We've got, with our owner, we've got 18 rows of data. So showed you how to filter out. So you can sort by name. So we come over here, go to data, sort, name. So now you've got it sorted by the name. So you've got employees, So we're going to sort it again now that I made a change to a name. So, and then what we're going to do, it says add a row to a table. You've already done that, but we'll do that again for these exercises. So you can either resize it. So you can type, go into table design. You have to click anywhere in the table to get table design. And you can say resize it. And so now we're going to say 21. We want to add a row. And so now you've got an extra row in the table, but I'm not going to put anything there. So I'm just going to undo it because I was just showing you how to do it. And now we're going to delete a row from the table. So you can come over here to employee number 4. And you just press delete. Now you don't have an employee number 4 anymore, but I want to keep it. So I'm going to undo. Now we're going to select all employees who have appraisals and training due before 1 July 27. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this table that I created to prepare for this lesson. And so this is the first one. Let's see. What was the question? Select all employees who have appraisals and training before 1 July 2027. So you've got date to check is 1 July 27. So we're going to say normal formulas. Just to keep it simple. So your date to check is A22 and your date is 1 July 27. And so This is using traditional Excel formulas. You say if C2 is less than $B, $22. So that's your absolute referencing. So it doesn't matter where your formula is, that you're going to still hit B22. You type $B2. So that means you're going to print the column is going to be absolute, being B, but the row is not absolute. And if it's not present, you're going to print 0. You're going to print nothing. And then so basically what you do is, since you've got your absolute references, you can copy and paste this all the way down till you get to owners. But of course, owner is not going to come up. And the reason why owner is not going to come up, because I set the owner up so he doesn't have anything due before 31 December 27. So the owner is not going to come up. And then so we can copy and paste that down. And when we copy and paste that down, we're going to say if F2 is less than or equal to $B, $22, you're going to print $B2, otherwise nothing. So that's going to go all the way down to, and it goes all the way down to employee 5. And then so basically you copy and paste that formula all the way down. So, and this one is going to be G2. This one's going to be H2. This one's going to be I2. We're not going to have that one because that's not a date. This one's going to be L2. This one's going to be M2. This one's going to be N2. And so you copy and paste it all the way down. So that's how you do it with traditional Excel programming. So if you've got a really big spreadsheet, it might be a little bit cumbersome to do that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use structured referencing to select employees who have appraisals and training due before 1 April 27. And so we're going to refer to table data using table and column names instead of the traditional cell references. So this is a more slick way to do it. So now what we're doing is we want to find out who has appraisals and training due before 1 April 27. So your date check is going to be B41. So the formula that we're going to use is going to be more, in my opinion, Pythonic. It's going to be more Pythonic. So instead of using the column and row reference, we're going to use the column name. So equals filter. So you're going to filter it, brackets, appraisal training. That's what this table is called. Name, comma, appraisal training, brackets, appraisal due is less than B41. But let's go over here and change this. Because we're just checking appraisals. And no, we didn't. No, we didn't. So that's how many appraisals are due, because you've got the appraisal date. So the employees who have appraisals due before 1 April 27 are employee 4, employee 9, employee 3, employee 10, employee 2, and employee 11. And then what you can do over here is you can copy it. So equals filter, brackets, appraisal training, name, comma, appraisal training, fire safety is less than B41. So that's April 27. And so you see 3 employees need fire training. And what you could do if you wanted to, which I haven't done it, you can copy this. So what's the next one? The next one is data protection. It just says data protection. So what you can do is you can copy this. Go Control-C to copy it. Then you press Escape. Then you go over here to the next column, type V, but then you say, instead of fire safety, you say data. You say data protection. You press enter. So you have 3 employees who need data protection. And then so you can copy and paste this formula all the way to the very end, but you have to ensure that you put the name of the column in it. So this one column is fire safety, and this column is data protection, and the next column is going to be equality. So we'll do it one more time just to show you how to do it. You type Control-C, and then you, well, this is the way I do it. I found it works. And then you highlight it. You go Control-C, and then you press Escape. And then you press Control-V, and then instead of data protection, it's going to be equality. So there was a mistake there somewhere, wasn't it? Equality. Let's see what we've got here. Let's try it again. So I've got a calculation error. So I don't know why that is a calculation error, because you've got appraisal training name, appraisal, and then appraisal training equality is less than B41. And so obviously there is a problem here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say so I think I figured out what the problem is. In this one, it says not attained. And since it's not a date, it's not going to work. So what you would have to do is you would have to work around that. So basically, not attained means that that their training has elapsed, or they haven't done that training yet. And so what we're going to do is, in order to make this work, we're going to say 1, and we're going to say 1 January 2020. And so that's going to be employee 14. So employee 14 has come up. So what we had to do is, because it said not attained, and it wouldn't work with the not attained. So rather than saying not attained, you had to put a date in there. So I put 1 January 2020 in there just to make it work. And then what you can do is you can copy and paste it through the entire table. So after that, it says employ advanced filtering and table appraisal training to select appraisals and equality training due before 1 May 27. So what we're going to do is the next one, we're going to say advanced filtering. The date to check is 1 May 27. So that's B49. And it says filter appraisal training name, comma, appraisal training appraisal date is less than B49 times appraisal training equality is less than B49. And the only thing you've come up with is employee 11. So employee 11 is the only employee where the appraisal date is before 1 May 27 and the equality is before 1 May 27. So we can come over here. So we can look at the appraisals. So there was one with 1 January 27, but we come over here to equality, and that's for 11/27. So in this one, we're using an and. We're using an and. So both of these criteria have to be met. So the appraisal has to be due before 1 May 27, and the equality has to be due before 1 May 27. So we come over here to employee 11. And so you can see that the appraisal date is 15 March 27. And equality is 5 April 27. So that meets the criteria. So employee 11 was the only employee that met that criteria of both the appraisal and the equality being less than 1 May 27. And then we come over here, it says employ advanced sorting on appraisal due and data protection. So we'll come over here to our raw data to the first table that we made for this lesson, and you come over here to data, and you can do sort. So what did we want? We wanted, hold on a second. We wanted appraisal date and data protection. So we're going to say sort. So we've got the appraisal date, and then we're going to add a level, and it's going to be data protection. So that's what we're going to sort it on. Appraisal date and data protection. So the initial sorting was on the appraisal date, and then after you sorted on the appraisal date, then you sort it on data protection. So that's how you do advanced sorting. And then the last one, we're going to say filter top 10 values. So we're going to filter the top 10 values. And so you come over here. So you're going to say equals filter brackets A2 to B19, comma, A2 to A19. That's your employee number. It's greater than or equal to large A2 to A19, comma 10. So that's how you filter the top 10 employees. That's how you filter your top 10 employees. So your top 10 employees are going to be employee 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and then the owner and the manager. And so we're going to come over here and so that's how you do it. That's how you create a table and you do the things that you need to do to organize your data within the table. And so basically what we did is we covered why a table can be useful to you, and you got your raw data. I would recommend that when you're starting out, you have a sheet with your raw data, and then you can make a table and sheet with your raw data that you're going to keep that, and then you copy that spreadsheet over, and then you make the table with the spreadsheet that you have copied over, and then you can manipulate it and do whatever it is that you need to do with it. And if you make a mistake, then you still got your raw data. And then that's what I would recommend that you do even when you're starting out. So we made a table in the lesson, showed you how to make a table, and we went through a number of exercises. We went through 10 exercises showing you how to do all these things. And I made a table to prepare for this lesson. And in the lesson, we actually made a table and did some other things within the table. So that concludes this lesson. I hope that you got something out of this lesson. And I will be communicating with you soon because we're going to be talking about pivot tables and pivot charts. So I hope that you decide to watch the next lesson as well. I'll speak to you soon.